Hello Malaysians, it's early in the morning now, 3 a.m. I believe, and I'm speaking from my home in Perth. I am an Australian, formerly a Malaysian, but I ditched my Malaysian citizenship for Australian citizenship. So I'm now Australian, living in Australia, and making this video in Australia. This is to give notice to the courts in the event of any prosecution mistaken right to prosecute me under Malaysian law, because I am not in the jurisdiction of the Malaysian courts. I am not subject to the laws of Malaysia, and I can say whatever I please, and I will not be committing any criminal offences in Malaysia. Because from now on, my videos will be very critical of the Malaysian values and Malaysian way of life, and Malaysia as a nation. And therefore, the Attorney General's office in Malaysia, not knowing the law as usual, will think they have the right to prosecute me. So I'm making this initial statement to mark out where my rights stand and where their right to prosecute me lies outside of my right in Australia. I had earlier created a video on my new camcorder, and well, I haven't learned very much about the camcorder, how to operate it, and therefore this morning, later this morning, I will have my video processed by my son-in-law. But all the same, I'm creating a second video on top of the first one using my camcorder and on my on my computer cam, which I am familiar with and which I am now recording on both my camcorder and my video recorder on my computer. The first thing I want to mention is that Sarawak belonged to the Raja Brooke. When I was a child, he was known as the White Raja of Sarawak. And Sarawak has nothing to do with Malaysia at all. I mean, it was a separate country ruled by a White Raja, Raja Brooke, and his family. And I don't know what happened, I don't know the history of it, how it came about that the Brooke family ceded Sarawak to join Malaysia as a component state of Malaysia. Well, that has to be decided, but more important than that is, I mention this in order to see Sabah in its correct context as a nation and as a country that is without and within the Federation of Malaysia. I had earlier criticized, or rather given my opinion on the relative merit of the leadership of Mr. Ketinggan and Mr. Yong Teck Lee. My support goes to Mr. Ketinggan, both because he is a Sabahan, most probably an Iban or a Dayak, because Sabah, the majorities are either Dayak or Ibans, but they are no more inferior to the Chinese nor the Malays. They are the same in every respect. The Sabahan is the same in in the level of intelligence, sophistication and education as the Chinese and the Malays of Malaysia. So I appeal to you people in Sabah and Sarawak not to continue to live in this state of inferiority complex, to discard this misconception that the Malays have brainwashed you into thinking that you are subject people and that you are inferior to the Malays. Hence the coining of the phrase ketuaan Melayu. Well, my Malay is Camplang Malay, Rojak Malay, so forgive me for not really pronouncing it correctly, but all the same, you know what I'm talking about. So I am now laying out the strategy, or I am offering my opinion on the strategy to be pursued by the Ibans, Kadayans, the Dayaks and Muruts and the natives of Sabah and Sarawak, in order to identify themselves as the sons of the soils, the Bumiputra, to borrow a phrase from the Malay language, the Bumiputra of Sabah and Sarawak, and that the Malays are not the Bumiputras of Sabah and Sarawak. Therefore, you are in that respect, Sabahans and Sarawakians, you are in that respect possessed of superior citizenship rights in Sabah and Sarawak, and you have more rights to determine your future than do the Malays in Peninsular Malaysia. And they have taken upon themselves, under the Prime Ministership of Mahathir, to take upon themselves the superior position to the Sabahans and the Sarawak, and to treat the Sabahan and the Sarawakians with disgraceful difference. In other words, to whether I'm using the right word or not, but to treat the Sabahans and the Sarawakians as if they treat the Chinese, that we are second-class citizens to the Malays. Imagine the Bumiputra of Sabah and Sarawak are inferior to the citizenship of Malaysia. Therefore, I will recognize this, or I will identify this as bestowing on the people of Sabah and Sarawak. In Sabah and Sarawak, you are superior in your rights of citizenship over the other parts of Malaysia, Peninsular Malaysia. You see, you are all, each and every component state of the Federation of Malaysia is an independent state. Only to surrender 5% or 10% of your sovereign rights to the Federation of Malaysia in order to come together and pursue beneficial common cause. Other than that, you are, each and every one of you, a separate nation and a separate state. This is evidenced by the fact that 9 sultans inhabit Peninsular Malaysia, and each one of those states are independent of the other. The Sultan of Kelantan is not inferior to the Sultan of Selangor. The Sultan of Selangor is in no way inferior to the Sultan of Perak. They are all equal. They are all equal, and they are, in that respect, because they are all equal, each state, each component state, Selangor, Kelantan, Perak, Negri, each component state is a country unto itself. Malaysia, therefore, is an abstraction, the overarching of the interest of all the component states to form a federation of Malaysia. Therefore, the federation is only in concept. There is no country, as it were, that is Malaysia. But there is a country called Sabah. There is a country called Sarawak. There is a country called Selangor. There is a country called Kelantan. Therefore, understand this as a basic principle in order to define and claim your sovereign rights as Sabahans and Sarawakians. I ask you people in Sabah and Sarawak, what is the advantage of staying in the Federation of Malaysia? For all these 60 years, all your oil revenue went to the Federal Treasury of Malaysia. Where did you get any benefit from the profits from your extraction of oil in Sabah and Sarawak? Did you get anything? Is there how many of your children got scholarship to go and study in England, United States, Australia, New Zealand? How many of your Sabahans, Sarawakians got scholarship to go and study in all these famous universities? I will wager none. If anything, you are given places in the local universities in Kuala Lumpur, in Penang, or wherever there is a Malaysian university. But those universities are third-class universities. They produce nothing but just paper qualified whatever profession, engineers or doctors or what. They are not trained, fully qualified, hands-on doctors, engineers, lawyers and that sort of thing. They were just handed degrees even without meeting the minimum standards to qualify for such a degree. Therefore, I say to you, Sabahans and Sarawakians, you are the adopted child of the Federation of Malaysia. But the irony of it all is that you contribute 80% of the revenue of Malaysia in terms of your contribution. 40% of Malaysia's revenue come from oil, and 80% of the revenue from oil comes from Sabah and Sarawak. I make a more reasonable suggestion. Why don't you people in Sabah and Sarawak leave Malaysia and, if you like, negotiate with Singapore to maintain your defense posture? Is Singapore stronger than Malaysia, or is Malaysia stronger than Singapore militarily? I will say Singapore is stronger than Malaysia militarily 3 times over. Singapore is 3 times stronger in its defense force as compared to the defense force of Peninsular Malaysia. I recommend that Sabah and Sarawak. You take back your sovereign right as nation states. Take back your sovereign right as Sabah and Sarawak. And from there negotiate with whichever country that you think will serve your purpose best. I would say your purpose will be best served if you join with Singapore as in a federation sort of arrangement. Well, I'm feeling a bit dizzy. I will stop here and continue later on. Bye.